fans of the T minus 365 day series. Welcome to podcast number 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, I have the entire team here, and we have a brand new guest with us whom we'll be introducing, who was pivotal in us getting to where we are and serves a lot of keeping us together, keeping us organized, coming up with a lot of the creativity, and of course also doing a lot of stuff that we're extremely grateful for, such as keeping us fed with some very delicious food. So with that, I want to introduce Manju for being who she is to the team, extremely vital person, and one that provides tremendous amount of entertainment off camera and has been a huge source of teaching me a lot of skills. Now, this episode, or this week's episodes, from episode number 22 to 28, was I think an extension of going deeper into the character and getting to see some of the habits and the traits and the skills that are coming to the table, and there will be a lot more. Many of them actually Manju has helped to arrange, from the meditation to the cooking, to even the other stuff that she's working on, like dancing and a list of other things. Yoga, yeah, which we're going to be getting into. So I wanted to go over some of the key elements of what happened just as she was coming onto the team. It was during lockdown that everyone was asked to remain at home. And I think initially during the lockdown, you were still doing some activities for the office, being afar. And then I had asked if she had some extra time to work on this with us, and she, I think, began to from afar and tell us how you actually came from being stuck where you were because you couldn't, there was no Uber, there was no taxis, the cars were not actually supposed to be on the road. How did you get to us and why?
Yeah, a day when you texted me, are you ready to come and work here? I was confused whether to come and how to come.
Mm-hmm.
Then next day again I got a message from you and also from office also. So I thought, okay, I will try to come. Then whole day I was trying to book Rapido, Uber, nothing was working.
Mm-hmm.
So one only thing left was I booked a Swiggy Genie, which is used for transporting the products or
goods. She was the goods.
Yeah, I booked that and convinced them to take me, and
so she bribed the genie driver to take her as a potato sack and smuggle her into into the city. But nevertheless, I got I think a video of you in the back of the. Yeah. This is like a not a motorcycle, a scooter.
Yeah, bike.
Oh, okay, bike, motorcycle.
Yeah, I was recording that and sent it to you.
And I was like, what's happening? And we all got so excited. One of the first things that we did collectively as a team is try to come up with a logo, which actually I wasn't even thinking about when the concept of this show had started. And that was maybe, would you say about 2 weeks into the shooting or so?
Yeah, 2 weeks and somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, within 2 to 3 weeks of shooting, which was just hey, let's begin this and see where it goes. That's where it all began, and then the idea that Akash brought up was we should have a logo, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess that would make sense, but I wasn't even thinking about it like that. But it does make sense, and so the idea of what the logo should be. What was the first thing that we ever thought of as a logo? It was a pulse, something about a pulse.
Yeah, it was a pulse.
Yeah, because the idea was at the end of the video. This was an idea that was later taken out, which was at the end. Just in the beginning, there would be a timer counting down. At the end of it, there would be a throbbing heartbeat that ends in the EKG machine going flatline, going beep. And so we thought about what if that somehow was captured in a logo, and you came up with some drafts
of that concept, and I was showing you. Then suddenly Abhishek also drawn
Well,
DNA.
Yeah.
no, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
You're skipping a lot. Which is you drew the heart with the
365.
with 365.
So yeah, we were going over a lot of.
Oh, and the
back
colors
forth.
for that were, by the way, green and red.
Yeah, and I wanted to do like
Yeah.
on a black background. I wanted
Yeah.
to do a white.
Oh, and one might have been better than the other, or but it was still nothing that wasn't like a small a Photoshop endeavor. It wasn't anything iconic.
Yeah.
That it would be something like something you find in like a WordPress element.
It
Yeah,
was.
it was too
It
general.
looked cool.
Too generic.
It looked cool, but it didn't have any significance. It didn't have
Yeah.
the message that we wanted to convey to people.
Yeah, and we also I remember I bringing this up. I was like, what if people get confused thinking that it's a health
Oh, yeah.
something?
Yeah.
This is a heart and EKG and whatnot. So
That's what I thought first when I saw
okay,
it.
there you go. So one day, and how did we get to the office downstairs? Because there's a classroom where I make the whiteboard videos for
No,
our
we
company.
had this you used to have this meeting.
Oh,
every
we had
day.
meetings at the office.
Before Manju came in,
Yeah.
we used to have this meeting and we used to record and send it to her.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I love writing on the whiteboard and I
Yeah.
wanted them to be included, so we'd record those meetings and send it over. And we began to actually all come together and
Yeah, that
By
brainstorming
the way,
session.
there's a fun Easter egg there.
okay.
The videos are still on YouTube, but we didn't publish them.
Oh, about those
Meetings,
about those meetings. Yeah, we try to save those meetings, which we should have more of those on the back end
Yeah.
to show, like the one we just had,
Yeah.
to show how we get to where we are, kind of the internal meetings. But what was interesting is that we went from, I think we were drawing on papers initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
And then everyone went crazy and started drawing on board, like their version of their logo.
Actually, even before we got to the whiteboard, you had created two triangles.
Yeah. I was doodling with that idea.
And I immediately and the triangles was like a slanted.
Yeah, it was an hourglass, but I didn't want it to make it roundish.
Yeah.
I'm more like a straight guy, so
Yeah.
I wanted to make like symmetry or something like that. I was not into curves. I was into straight line. So that's the thing.
I went near board to imitate you, not to write anything about logo, just to imitate you what all you
Oh.
do. Then it started.
Yeah. So what happened was Akash came was doodling with some ideas about a straight lined hourglass which looked like two triangles
Yeah.
kind of converging, and it was tilted and one was green, one was red.
Yeah.
And I told him the confusion that I initially saw, which was it looks like a buy and a sell direction.
Yeah.
In fact, it was exactly like that because the green one was facing in one direction, the red one was facing another direction. I was like, this looks like a trading application that I've seen in other places. And so, but what happened was we were all doodling different concepts and trying to make it the concept of time, but not just a regular hourglass that you would see. We wanted ours to stand out in some way that when you saw it, it was like, oh, that's theirs. And that's when, because I like to think on whiteboards, I began to write on a whiteboard, and then Manju decided to mock me, and she also picked up a marker and started drawing. Because she's actually a very great artist, and one of the things that she's teaching me is sketching, and so that's why, and also very talented graphic designer as well, very talented manager, full of talent in a small bundle, and so then we all got to the whiteboard, and we're just like looking at each other's ideas and whatnot, and Abhishek, I'll let you share what happened from there, because it was actually something that you did that spawned the final product.
Yeah, so I saw that you all go to the whiteboard. Akash was drawing the triangles. Manju was also drawing something. So I saw like it is relatable to something. So I saw like in my mind I saw something and I drew it. It was like some DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the idea of hourglass can be like a DNA. So I draw that on the board.
Oh man, that was
Yeah, then-
that is a great concept by itself. That is a great concept.
Yeah. So then you
Yeah.
you
Yes.
saw it and you said like oh it's like DNA again. It's looking like health stuff. So you can change it more.
Yeah. It's Diana is very very much
The hourglass wasn't broken first, right?
No, it wasn't broken. It wasn't broken. In fact, I was trying to draw an hourglass, which was a struggle for me. We actually still have a picture of that board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to draw an hourglass, and I actually did a story on that as well. Draw an hourglass, and then
Then we removed the top and the bottom.
yeah, because the DNA kind of
Yeah.
removed the top and the bottom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then I remember thinking, because one thing that you said.
Oh,
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, yeah.
What is that?
Like once it is gone, time will never reverse it.
Yeah, but you said something before that actually led to that idea, which is in an hourglass you can always flip it,
Yeah.
and that idea was plus what he drew put together suggested to me, like, what if the bottom was broken, so in that way it just flows and without the ability to flip back, which is kind of life, which is also one of the episodes called Redo, episode number 26, and the fact that you cannot redo life. So combining the element of not being able to flip back and the open, and you have the top and bottom open. So I just drew a line on the top, and the bottom was completely open, and that's how the idea began. But it looked weird because the bottom was completely open,
Yeah.
and then I forget who.
Then we sent that sketch to another person
Uh-huh.
to design. Then I started doing the thing, and when you came to check
Yeah.
the bottomless, I said I will break this.
Oh man.
You said broken, and I said, see, I will break this now, and I did in such a way you figured it out as MW and all.
Oh
this.
yeah. We were trying to add.
I-
What was I don't know what I was going with the MW.
I don't
Hidden
know,
message.
Yeah.
I was doing that. You came up with the, oh wow, this wave is good. It shows W something.
Yeah, but nevertheless, she added a bottom to it, which was this jagged edges, and that actually took us to the next level of the product of the final design, which is actually we didn't have sand in there.
No, we didn't. We spent it like around 12 hours to tweak it, that
Oh, man.
logo.
And-
12 to 18 hours, I think. I don't remember how much time, but we didn't sleep that day. We continuously working on until it was refined.
Yeah, and refined for the presentation on April on April 4th, which was our launch day, which culminated in
And you
what is
didn't-
now episode
27.
Didn't
27.
tell about the crack. That
Yeah,
came
I'm getting to that. Oh man, the crack is it's such a crazy story. I think Akash said that we're gonna remember, this. So, what was happening? You drew it. So, you were drawing. So yeah, one of the things that we're gonna do is sketching, and Manju was drawing a
Big version of
big version of the logo on the front of the sketchbook. And in order for her to do that, she cut out another piece to kind of imitate the design, and on that imitation there was a line
color pencil
line that was put on the top portion of the hourglass, and I was like, this looks cracked, and mind you, this is like few hours before our presentation to all of our friends here at the office that are nearby.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was asking her, I was like, why did you put this line here? And she's like, oh, it's a mistake. And I was like, but do you realize that it looks like a crack? And I was like, there could be some significance to this. I didn't know what that significance was,
Yeah.
but I was like, the bottom is broken. Can the top be cracked for some justification,
Yeah.
whatever that was? Took that mistake, made that into a significance of making a crack on the top portion to signify that not only do you have a limited amount of time that is second by second falling that you
I
cannot
think
reverse.
the idea was good.
Mhm.
The crack was good.
Mhm.
That's why we spend more time to just replace it and make it better. If we didn't sell with the idea that the crack signifies a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
that actually you explained us, like how do you feel about the crack, and
Yeah.
you tell life is something, it can end anytime.
Exactly. This, by the way, is the result of so many adjustments and thoughts and feedbacks. Some of the stuff that you can't even appreciate by looking at it here. You have to zoom in and see. Love it, and maybe because it's ours, I love it. I also sent it off to some friends, and they gave their input on it, and I asked them simply, tell me your interpretation of it, and we got some wonderful interpretations that we didn't even think of.
Yeah.
One of them was the color scheme of yellow and blue. She mentioned that yellow is for happiness and blue is for sadness, and these are in conflict and contrast in life, and that happiness is slipping, and some interpretation that she had.
Yeah, so that made us like we choose the right colors.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to, I'm sure you could justify other colors as well, but we're very happy. Also, like, I absolutely love blue and gold, which is kind of what I was going after. That to me is like a signature color combination. My office is that color, my car is that color, my Rolex that I don't wear anymore. It's all that color, and so I really like that color combination. But how do you guys feel about the logo?
Of course, it's our logo.
Yeah,
It's our baby. We can't criticize that.
No, but here's one thing I will say, that I am always looking to make adjustments. You guys know by working with me, I make tremendous amount of adjustments. At least I can say that when I get to the final product, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I'm never finished. It's that when I get there, it's like, that's the one, right? Yeah. And so hopefully you guys don't mind that too much, seeing the end product. But this right here, I don't have any more changes to it. So that should say a lot, that I'm at peace with this. So the logo means a lot to us, but we have so much more to do with the logo that we're not able to do right now, as we are confined in this lockdown. Some of the things that we have discussed are different things that could go at the top of that hourglass that could show the depletion of time. It will still have the crack, it'll still have the broken part at the bottom and whatnot, but variations of this for things like t-shirts, other merchandise that could signify this, and a constant reminder to the fragility of life. And I think that is something that all of us could use. Like, this is very fragile glass, and similarly, that hourglass is meant to be very fragile, just as life is very fragile. But let's talk about some of the stuff that we discussed about what we can put at the top of the hourglass, showing that it is also day by day, moment by moment, depleting.
I didn't get your question.
What are some of the stuff that we talked about putting at the top of the hourglass?
Oh, it's like numbers, and then
heartbeats.
Heartbeats.
365 days.
A melting heart.
A melting heart.
Yeah.
365 days.
A number of days even. Yeah. Exactly.
Money.
Yeah, money. We toy with the idea of putting money in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, anything that can be squandered, but money, that is something that you could probably retrieve. But yes.
Bitcoin for sure.
Bitcoin. Yeah, you definitely don't want to lose Bitcoin.
Bitcoin makes more sense because supply scarcity.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's very interesting, because we're also I'd like that.
Yeah.
We're also tying in Bitcoin, which is also yellow. Tying in Bitcoin.
Money can be made by
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's what happens when you work in a cryptocurrency company for a very long time.
So you should invest on Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
Context are.
Yeah. No, we're big on Bitcoin. We're gonna continue to tie in Bitcoin into this, because, and not just because we're in the space of Bitcoin, but because for the character actually, and this, none of this would be possible if not for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has had a huge impact on the character's life, transforming him into who he is. So he is deeply impacted by this digital currency. Now, you want to say something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna be adding a lot more things to the top of this in different variations, putting it on t-shirts, wearing those t-shirts. We can't make those t-shirts because of this lockdown. Another thing that Abhishek had the idea of what to do with the logo, I really like. What is that?
What was that?
It was the
It was a light.
Neon.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Neon light. We'll place it in our house.
Yeah.
And in office.
That'd be a
as
great
well.
night light.
I think we should start keeping track of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because we keep on coming with a lot of ideas. We start losing the track of what we
But
said.
we have track of everything.
And so some of the stuff we talked about was a watch.
Yeah, watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we count Lily's dollar.
Okay, yeah.
So watch which will have a 365 timer and it will not stop.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you
Once you start it, it doesn't stop. And
And we talk
I
about
would-
the app and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh
So
my-
yeah, all of that is coming.
Yeah.
all of
Just
it.
wait.
yeah, we're having quite the imagination.
We'll train you also.
Yeah. So I wanted to go over some of the episodes and the topics that they cover that happened this week. Number 22 was clarity, and this was actually a conversation that we had at dinner time about running fast or running in the right direction. And Akash is in the philosophy of run fast, even if it's in the wrong direction, because once you figure out that you're in the wrong direction, you can run fast.
Yeah.
With that, number 20, day 23, growth, is getting deeper into my personal past. I bring up my very first girlfriend, who was my very first fiance, that's also my only fiance, and also how that the growth aspect of that, how that has left me to actually explore the areas of my growth, which I really wanted very desperately her to participate in that, but nevertheless, I realized that growth involves no one but myself. Day 24 talks about slave masters, which I think, if I asked you guys, what is a slave master, what is a modern day slave master, what would you say?
Mobile.
Mobile, okay, that's a good one. That is a great one.
Money.
That's a great one. That is probably the one. And again, we'll come back to Akash. So slave master, he's in like refresh mode, like reboot mode.
No, I'm thinking a lot of stuff right now. Like
Reboot mode.
yeah.
Okay. And the topic that I talked about is the most obvious ones are the ones that we're aware of, our bosses, deadlines, and all the stuff that we gotta answer to externally. But there is a much deeper slave master of our habits. And one of the analogies that I use is that there was a guy on a horse, and the horse was going very fast. And somebody on the street asked him, "Hey, guy on the horse, where are you going?" And he said, "I don't know, ask the horse." So it's like your habits are taking you somewhere in your life. If you don't know where your habits are taking you, they're going to take you somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. That is one of the hidden slave masters. If you know that your job's, the boss of your job is a
known one.
And he's a known one, right? So you could say, okay, that's bad for me, I'm going to switch to this one. But the more secretive ones, the more hidden ones, are the ones that are within you. Let's talk about day 25, stranger. How did that start? What were we trying to...
I'll tell you what happened exactly that day.
One of the
that
coolest
was
episodes.
the day when we were working on the logo and we got so late we didn't have the time to shoot and what to shoot. That was the
because
question.
the end scene was becoming morning.
Yeah.
That's how much we had stayed up.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was the day we didn't sleep, and that was the day when we were working on the logo. After 2 days we had a launch, and that was the day we were working on it. Now I remember.
Yeah, wow, good memory. That was one of the most interesting episodes, which there was not necessarily variety, but there was a great line of being present with the character as he goes through this
Actually, Sal, this is
psychological
what happened.
matter.
You came to me and you told me like we kept on doing the repetitive stuff like this and that. If someone was really dying,
Monotonous.
Yeah.
so what he will do?
Right.
Then Sal came and told me
Wake
like
up.
you want to
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah.
You want to shift.
Yeah.
Then I was like thinking visually like how we can show him like what is a shift.
Yeah.
And in
visual
a
coach.
very small span of time, I think within half an hour, I come up with a rough draft of a story, like this is how it's gonna be. And I was not too sure about the episode at all, but I had this rough idea in my head that I wanted, and then I pitched it to Sal, and then Sal was like, okay, let's try that.
Yeah.
What we have to lose. We
Yeah.
can try that.
I thought there was going to be actually more things included into it, but actually going with Akash's feedback of just that being the entire episode, because I was like, wait, how are we going to make 3 minutes and 29 seconds of
Yeah, that was very hard to
Yeah.
convince to Sal, like,
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. We make it 3 minutes, and I think that was the most experimental episode so far.
Yeah, as I was talking to you guys today, like we need to do more experimental episodes like that, especially in this confinement. Because as I was telling you guys, episode 1, 2, 3 required no creativity. You could give a monkey that has a steady hand to shoot, and it would have been great episodes.
Yeah.
Because the content was so rich, so colorful, so experiential. But here, in the confines of our limited space, limited capacity, we're trying to keep this going and trying to come up with other creative angles, creative storytelling, and those sorts of experimental episodes are what's going to expand our imagination and keep us going. But I'm really, really happy with the outcome. The sand dropping, and you guys actually going to get sand in the middle of the night, and then Manju cleaning that up. Oh man, it was.
Yeah.
I was scared that the sand was gonna fall on the carpet. And
You were scared about the sand will fall on carpet.
yeah.
We were scared that if police will catch us, they
Oh,
will
yeah,
like
yeah,
they will
because
bust
you
our
should,
hands.
you
Yeah.
should, we have different problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been out like that late at night, so that was definitely scary. Day number 26 is redo, which is me as a child finding out that one of my close friends had the same desire of a superpower that I wanted, which is being able to reverse time, and that stuck with me. Like, how did someone,
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
have the same thing? And then as I grew up, I realized everybody wants this ability to reverse their mistakes of wishing that they could go back. And I'm saying that we end up living a lot of our life there. And I'm saying that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to go forward. Day 27 was altruism. And this is actually part of a 3-episode series of the 3 phases of my life. And this is where we really start digging deep into kind of more of what the character's internal aspects are and how he thinks about life and the kind of huge separations that he can go from altruism to the opposite, to hedonism, which is day 28, and then the third one, which is transcendence, which is going to be episode 29. I think that covers the spectrum of the character's life. And now, of course, he has to confine that in a year. So first, altruism is fulfilling his obligations to his family and everyone that has invested hopes and sacrifices in him. And then I'm very interested in hedonism to see what the character does, which I think as I get more financially to the point where I can take care of my financial responsibilities, I'm curious to see who the character and myself become in the hedonistic side, in a way where you're kind of like free and liberated to just do the things that light you up and bring you excitement and joy.
But it is already done.
No, but I'm saying like the character actually living that out. I only just talked about it. I've done very little hedonistic things, and actually talk about an area where I've tried to do both altruism and hedonism at the same time, and the tough life lesson, the anguishing life lesson that I've learned there. There's a few skills that have begun this week with the book reading of Death by Sadhguru. Does he have a last name?
Sadhguru, that's all.
All I know is Sadhguru.
Sadhguru, okay.
His name is different.
Yeah, his name is different. Yeah, and then also meditation, which that's actually on episode 29.
Yeah.
But cooking and I think drawing, sketching has begun.
Sketching and meditation.
Yeah. So and Manju is helping to come up with a lot more other creative ideas for that. But nevertheless, we're working through what is the biggest lockdown in the world, and day by day we're getting more creative, more organized, and better, so that when we can, the first day we can go and shoot outside freely, we're going to create such amazing content because of the experience that we had internally. And if you liked episode 1, 2, and 3, realize that so many more of the episodes were to be like that. As I was telling the guys, that India is such a culturally rich place of colors and culture and foods and experiences that not only will it take 365 days, it may take the entire lifetime which is actually 365 days, of someone to explore and try to capture. And so we want to share that with you guys. But I'm proud of us for staying consistent when we should have stopped so many times, when we should have stopped, even with all these extensions. Even today, we got news that it could have either started to open up the country or get extended. And it, again, for another 2 weeks, it's been extended. And in that time, we will grow better and more creative. And when things do reopen up, we'll be a much better version of who we are than how we entered this quarantine. With that, I conclude this podcast number 4. I do want to leave a hidden question that if you can answer, we'll give 10 times the number of, or the amount of a daily Bitcoin gift away. What was...
How Manju came.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say. How did Manju come
the
to?
method of Manju coming to this house.
Yeah. How did she get to us in during this lockdown? Answer that question, and one lucky person will win 10 times the daily giveaway amount. With that, guys, hopefully you guys are taking something away from our efforts through the episodes of each of the T-minus 365 days. So far, 28 episodes. Congrats, guys. Let's have a toast to that. And these are very fine glasses, so do not touch.
Yep.
And also coronavirus.
Yeah.
So...
Yes.
Okay, with that. We'll catch you on episode / day number 29.